talk about trust, the 3 different kinds of trust, and how to build trust. Because trust is a really tough thing for all of us as humans, where our core ego self that's always trying to protect us physically and emotionally is the thing that we want to follow and listen to, and it's the thing that causes us not to trust. But when we think about trust, it isn't ever really about learning to trust other people. People are people. Humans are humans. They're going to do their human things. They're going to be their human selves. What we can trust is ourselves, life itself, and the universe, source energy. And trust is not believing that everything's going to work out the way that you want it to, or even the way you think your higher power is deciding for it to. Because I notice a lot with spiritual people or people on the spiritual path that even when things don't, they come to a place where they understand, okay, things don't always work out the way I want, but my higher power is in control and things are working out according to what my higher power wants. But that's not really what trust is either. It has nothing to do with what we as humans want or what our higher power wants for us. Trust is knowing that whatever happens, it can become part of our awakening. That no matter what happens, it is wisdom, a journey, learning, understanding ourselves more, and it's just part of life. It's understanding that it's getting us to know life on a deeper level. Think about the range of human emotions. If we were only ever happy and there were no hardships to bring sadness or grief or pain, we would not know we were happy. We would not understand without the contrast. Same. If there was only ever pain or sadness or difficulty and never moments of joy or ease or happiness, we wouldn't understand the full spectrum of what life has to offer, of what it means to be human. And that's why we incarnate. We incarnate to understand what it means to truly be human. So first, let's talk about self-trust, because these 3 types of trust definitely go in order, kind of like nesting eggs. You have to have the first one to fit into the second, to fit into the third, and then it all flows together in a beautiful way. The first one is always self-trust, and self-trust is not about making the right decision. That's what we think it is. When I see people who are struggling with their self-trust, what they're really saying is, I don't trust myself to make the right decisions. I don't trust my intuition. I don't trust that what I know is real. And that's not what self-trust is about at all. Self-trust is knowing that whatever comes, I can meet it. I'm capable of meeting and dealing with anything that comes. This is something that has to be built if it's not inherent. But I think a lot of you know that your past experiences have brought a resilience and a strength in you that you know without a doubt that whatever comes, you have the capacity to meet it. There are emotions there that maybe you don't want to have to deal with, but you know that you can meet any circumstance that comes. Congratulations, you have self-trust. The second form of trust here is trust in life. This can also be thought of as trust in the universe, but I want to separate this from the terms that we use for source energy. So your higher power, God, source, universe, that's something different. This is just trust in the journey of life, trust in the universal energies that exist. And this is where we get to have the knowing or develop the knowing that everything that happens, there's wisdom in it. I don't always like the term everything that happens is a lesson. I don't necessarily like that term. I know that that's what we're taught in spiritual teachings, but there's such a negative connotation now to the word lesson that it implies that you're learning something that you didn't previously know, which is true, but it's showing a contrast of maturity versus immaturity that isn't exactly accurate. I want to replace that with the word wisdom, because you can have the knowledge of something and it still not be a wisdom, because a wisdom is having knowledge of something and then also experiencing that something in a physical embodied way and physically working through that something and coming out the other side. There is wisdom in this, not a lesson, not even a gift. That's another thing that on the spiritual path we learn, is that all experiences have a gift in them. And by gift, when I say it at least, I mean a source of power. Because you're learning something about yourself, you're learning something about the world and how it works, you're deepening your wisdoms, your strengths, and that empowers you. If you face something that you've already had the opportunity of experiencing and moving through successfully before, you are more empowered the second time it happens, because you know what to do, or you know how it has the possibility to turn out. So that's why I like to say the word gift. But in this context, when we're talking about trust and building trust in life, I don't want to use the word lesson or gift. I want to use the word wisdom. As we walk through life, we understand and know that there are certain types of people, there are certain types of experiences, there are certain things that can happen, but we don't know. We really don't know what it's like to do those things, experience those things, hold that space, be part of that container until we physically do it. We think that we do. We think, oh, I can do this, or I know how to do that, or I've been taught about this, but until you do it, you have no idea. No idea. That's like saying to somebody that you understand how they feel, but unless you've been through that exact same circumstance, you do not know exactly how they feel. You do not know exactly what it takes to do a certain thing unless you've done it in that way. So there is so much wisdom in the journey of life. And every single thing that you experience, it teaches you about yourself, your capabilities, your gifts, your strengths, your weaknesses, maybe it also teaches you about your passions. I really like to be taught about my gifts, because with light code gifts, we're taught that everything that we're attracted to, we have a light code gift for, meaning that everything that we're curious about can spark an inspiration inside of us that we have the capacity to fulfill, to do. And yet, on our dharmic path, where we're taking our inspirations and our passions and doing something with it as a service to life, not all of our inspirations are things that we're meant to do as a service. You know, that's kind of like saying, oh, I really love dogs, but that doesn't necessarily mean that your job, your service back to the universe, your full-time 9 to 5 involves dogs. So it's like learning that about yourself, because you don't know that until you know that, until you've tried, or until something else presents itself and you've walked that path. Or maybe it is. Maybe your passion always has been dogs, but you don't know that that's meant to be your 9 to 5, your gift to the universe, your service. And then you experience something that teaches you it is. And you can walk that path. But there's so much to this with wisdom. You're learning about your personal capabilities and how you would react in certain situations. And when you do react a certain way in a certain situation, how that's helpful, how that's a gift, how you're supported by other people who react differently in those situations, or how you need to react differently in order to hold a better space for yourself and others. There's always so much wisdom in every single situation, whether it's positive, whether it feels negative, or whether it's even just a neutral experience. There's so much wisdom in it. Not something that you have to change about yourself, not something you have to grow within yourself, but just something you are filling yourself with the experience of. Every experience is simply an experience, and every experience grows our wisdom. The third way to trust is trusting in source, whatever that word is for you: source, universe, spirit, higher power, God. That's the third method of trust. This I see a lot of spiritual people getting stuck on. When you're first opening your gifts, I see a lot of people get stuck on the self-trust, but that's because they think they always have to make the right decision, right? And then they get stuck on life just because they're not really sure why they're experiencing the things that they're experiencing, and they start to self-reject about it or think that there's a betrayal happening, when in reality it's just an experience. It's just the experience of life. You're getting the full spectrum, and it's all about gaining wisdom and learning about yourself and learning about humanity, learning about life. And then we get stuck in the deepest part, which is our trust in source energy. If we are struggling with rejection or abandonment wounds, quite often it ends up either being a self-rejection or we feel rejected by God, simply because we are not one with source energy in this human body, in our minds. It's a mindset. And that makes us feel alone, separated, lonely, unsupported. But this is where we really have to develop our trust in source, because this tells us when we trust in source, we know I don't have to do this alone. What I am doing, I am not doing alone. I am never alone. And if you feel alone, it's because you lack a trust in source, in spirit energy. So once you've been able to identify the levels of trust that you have, the levels of trust you don't have, or maybe you have all of these levels of trust, now that you're kind of opening your mind and changing your belief systems around that sort of trust, knowing that trusting in God simply means knowing you're never alone. Trusting in life itself just means understanding there's wisdom in everything you experience, and you're just simply meant to experience it. Knowing that trust in yourself simply means that you can meet anything that comes. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to make the right decision or the correct decision, because life is just life. You get to make all of the decisions and know that you can meet them no matter what ripples towards you because of your free will choices, because you always have a free will choice. Once you've met or understood the levels of trust, what you do and don't have, let's talk for a moment about how to trust. We can talk about trust all day long, but if you don't have it, how do we develop it? How do we learn how to trust, or to open more, or to deepen these things? So let's start with self-trust. I believe the best way to develop self-trust is to make promises to yourself and then keep them. Practice that. How often do you make a promise to yourself? We set goals, we set intentions, but do we ever look at ourselves as sovereign, worth type beings that deserve being promised to? We make promises to other people all the time. As kids, we pinky promise, we make blood oaths, we create bonds with our words to other people all the time. And we have to practice our impeccability with those words, with saying exactly what we mean, with keeping our promises, with keeping our word. If we tell someone we're going to do something, we do it. And if we don't really want to do it, then we say that. We practice being impeccable with our word with other people, but do we do that with ourselves? And do we even make those bonds with ourselves? Do we even promise ourselves things? I want you to practice making promises to yourself. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, I promise I will never put you through that again. I promise I will never go back to this relationship again. I promise I will do better with my nutrition and my health. I promise I will. I promise I will. I promise that I will speak more kindly to myself. I promise that when I look at myself, I will look at myself with beauty and understand my inherent worth. You make promises to yourself and then keep them. If there is anyone in this world worthy and deserving of a kept promise, it's you. If you can't keep a single promise to anybody on this planet, please practice at least keeping your word to yourself. It all starts with you. You are the most deserving person in the world. You have to keep your promises to yourself. If you can do that, you can build self-trust. It's the consistency in it. It's knowing that you've got your back all the time in every situation, that people can't simply talk you into doing things you don't want to do because you made a promise. You made a promise that you're not going to go back on because the most important person in the world deserves for you to have their back. You. This is your job to do for yourself. This is understanding that confidence follows action, not the other way around. You don't just build confidence and then take the action and then do the thing that you've been wanting to do. You have to do the thing. You have to take the action. You have to place the precedence. You have to create the scenario that you want and take action as a human through that scenario. And then that builds your confidence. The experience builds the confidence. It's not the other way around. You can't just sit back and wait for the day that you trust yourself and then do the things you want to do. You have to engage with your courage. You have to keep your promises. You have to be physical in your actions and have those experiences to build the wisdom. Keep your promises to yourself. Make promises and keep promises to yourself consistently. The second way to build trust, or trust in life itself in this particular context, is simply to allow time to unfold. We don't always understand why things are happening the way that they're happening or what the end result of a certain situation is going to be. But if we release the outcome, if we let go of control of what's going to happen or how it happens, we can allow time to unfold, and this builds our trust in life itself. If we can be curious, let's change fear, because we become very fearful inside of ourselves when we don't know how things are going to turn out. Like, we could have panic and anxiety not knowing what's going to happen. But if we take that fear and turn it into curiosity. Let's talk about your self-talk for a second. I'm afraid of what's going to happen tomorrow. I'm afraid of what's going to happen when I stand up and speak in front of this group of people. I'm afraid of what's going to happen when I do this workshop. I'm afraid of what's going to happen with this job. Or we can say, I'm curious what's going to happen when I speak in front of this group of people. I'm curious what's going to happen when I create this workshop. I'm curious what's going to happen. Curiosity is where it's at. You want to be curious about life because that expands your openness to it, whereas fear shuts down your openness to life. And how can you trust something that you are closed to? So what we can do here, creating that new belief system so that you can allow yourself to trust life itself, is to do your part. You've made a promise to yourself. You've kept the promise that you made to yourself. And you've done your part in any particular situation with integrity, honesty, and clarity, meaning that you clearly know your intentions for any particular thing, why you're doing something, what you want out of it, or at least how you want to feel by doing the thing. And you see very clearly what's happening. You understand yourself. You're doing what you're doing with integrity, trying to create a stable foundation for the thing you want to build. You have done your full part. And then, when you've done your part, you can say, I have done my part, and I am curious what the outcome will be. This opens you to the outcome. It opens you to the curiosity of life. It opens you to the magic and the wonder of life. It opens you to understanding that there's more than just what you know. Because the reality is life has millions of outcomes to any particular situation. And you might expect a certain outcome. And if that particular outcome doesn't happen, that shuts us down and puts us into reverse. And suddenly we don't trust life and we don't trust ourselves. But what if that particular outcome was very neutral? That doesn't mean you didn't feel positively or negatively about it, but if you didn't have that particular expectation of what controlled circumstance you wanted to get out of it, could your emotions feel positive about just about any experience you're having? Knowing that wisdom is coming out of it, knowing that it's an experience that's expanding you, that's helping you to know yourself better, that's helping you to see life in a different way and to have more wisdom about life. I think just about any circumstance that happens, any outcome that happens, as long as we understand that we're getting wisdom from it, and we did our part with integrity, honesty, and clarity, that we kept our promise to ourselves, we can find something beautiful in any circumstance. We intended something gorgeous. We intended a good feeling. And so any expectation that comes, anything that comes, any outcome that comes, I know is filled with wisdom, and I can get something out of it. And I didn't have to control it or manipulate it. It just is life. It is what it is. The third way to build trust, and this is more specifically trust with Source or trust in God, is to build a daily spiritual practice. This is important. This is less of a mindset thing, such as turning curiosity into fear after doing our part. It's not about the let go or allowing time to unfold. It's not about keeping our promises to ourselves. This is just about building a daily practice. Because in order to trust source energy, you have to have a relationship with source energy. And people think that a relationship with their higher power is praying for the things that you want. And it's not. Yes, you can ask for the things that you want. Of course, we want to intend things with the universe. But that's not what it's about. It's not a delivery service. It's a relationship. And relationships have to be harmonious and balanced, meaning you have to spend daily time connecting. It's not always about give and receive. It's about the connection, the harmony, the relationship, the communication even. It's just connection. So this could look like meditation, spending daily time in nature. This could look like prayer. It could look like taking moments of silence each day, a gratitude practice each day. You just want to spend a few minutes each day connecting, having some sort of relationship with the mystery of life. And this slowly builds your trust in the universe, because the more you are in relation with the universe, with nature, with source energy, the more you begin to feel its presence in you and with you. And remember that what causes us to not have trust in source energy or the universe or our higher power is that we feel alone. We don't trust that we're in that connection. There's a separation and a disconnection that has happened between us and all of the rest of life. And it's up to us to make that connection happen, not through control or manipulation, not through allowing anything. We want to make promises and keep promises. We want to have a consistent relationship. And it's your job to do that. It's your job to do that. We want to open our hearts, spend time. So we'll deepen this even, right? So I'm giving you ways to build trust with yourself, with life, and with source energy. So let's take this even a step deeper, right? Here are the things you want to think. You want to think, I trust myself, I trust life, I trust source. So let's just deepen this with a little practice, maybe a daily journaling practice on each of these three things. Write those three things down. I trust myself, I trust life, I trust source. So under the category of I trust myself, each day journal a little bit about how you honored yourself that day. Because you know that when you trust yourself, that means you can handle whatever comes. So each day, write down one thing that happened where you honored yourself or where you were courageous for yourself. I honored myself today by, and journal one thing. Then when you get to the category about trusting life, I trust life. This is where you journal about an unexpected wisdom that came today. You don't have to know every step. You don't have to know the outcome to something. But today, I found an unexpected wisdom in. An unexpected wisdom came to me today. This is what I learned about life today. And I know some of you are going to be like, well, today I learned that people are bitches. No. That could be part of it. Honestly, that could be part of it. But go deeper than that. Really get a wisdom, something that you experienced and moved through. And this is what you now understand about yourself. Okay? A wisdom. If you experience something negative with another person and then manage to come through it, what did you learn about yourself in that experience? Or how life supports you in that experience? Or how you trusted the outcome to work out in that experience because you're still being open to life and trusting life. A wisdom I could come to about a certain negative experience could be, I learned that I'm a very patient person. There is wisdom in this because hurt people spread that. Those ripples go to other people, and I can meet that with love. There are wisdoms to be had. Everywhere you look, it's just a matter of being open to it. The third thing you can journal on with I trust source, in order to know that you don't walk alone, is journal about being supported. I am supported even when I don't understand. So maybe something happened during the day that you still don't know the outcome for, that you still haven't worked through, that you don't understand. You don't understand something that's happened or why it's happened or where it's going to go. But you can journal, I don't understand this particular thing, and I am supported. I want that to be the last sentence of everything you journal when you're journaling under I trust source. I don't understand where this is going to end up, what's going to happen with this, or why this happened this way, and I am supported. Every journal entry ends with, and I am supported. Knowing that trust in source is the big bottom foundational piece that everything else rests within. So you have to have trust in yourself to have trust in life, and you have to have trust in yourself and life to have trust in source. But yet, if you don't have trust in source, you don't have a good, steady foundation to trust in life or to trust in yourself. They all nest within each other. So we want to work on all three at one time, not just waiting till we can trust ourselves to work on the next thing. Work on all three things at one time. Journal all three things each day. Because trust really isn't something that we learn, it's something that we remember. Trust is something inherent in your soul, in your spirit. When you were still within source, trust isn't even a word because it's inherent. It's something that simply exists without knowing a contrast. The contrast is becoming human. And then suddenly we have to remember that we can trust our souls, that we can trust this gift of life, that we can trust source energy, where we came from and where we're still connected to, and how we're all supported. Trust is something we remember. Welcome home.